Hi everybody, it's Libby. I'm back to show you a really quick and simple way to work the cross cables in Dolly cardigan. They happen twice in the yoke, once at the bottom and once at the top. And it is possible to do them slowly and to twist your stitches, but I'm going to show you how to work them without a cable needle, and it's really fast and easy. So let's get going. You'll find the instructions for the crossed cables in the abbreviation sections in the pattern. There's a right cross and a left cross. So these are the bits that you follow, and they link directly to these tutorials. So let's get started. I'll show you what's what. I've made a little swatch to show you some stitches, and I'm up to the part where I have to do my right and left cable crosses. So I have these lovely long elongated stitches that are ready to cross, knit and cross with the one behind them. So let's get going. The stitches are worked with colour B. So I'm ready to start using colour B, and I'm going to start my row by knitting a stitch and then slipping a stitch. And the next stitches we get up to are the first cable cross, and this one is a right cross. So the way to work a right cross is the quick way. You could do it slowly, but I'm going to show you the quick way. You insert your right needle into the front of your second stitch knitwise and knit that stitch. So that's the first stitch, there's the second stitch, we're going to slip it into that stitch knitwise, and we're going to knit the stitch. Now I wanted to show you that I'm not knitting into both stitches. I'm actually popping out between the two stitches at the back. So I'm inserting into the second stitch as if to knit, and I'm knitting that stitches, and I'm keeping my hand fairly light. I'm not being too tight with this. Then I slip this first stitch on the needle to my right needle purlwise. So I go in as if to purl, and I just slip it right over, dropping the original stitch, and there you have it. I have the right cross on my needle. The long elongated stitch has been knitted, and the second stitch is behind now it's the second stitch. The next stitch is behind the cross stitch. All right, the next maneuver in this row is to slip 2 stitches, and then we come up to our first left cross. Okay, to work the left cross, it's a little more fiddly, but it's not too tricky. It's one nice maneuver as well. To start with, I insert my right needle from behind the first stitch into the back leg of the second stitch knitwise. That sounds like a mouthful, doesn't it? So we'll walk it through. My right needle is going behind my first stitch. It's going to insert into the back leg of my second stitch as if to knit. See, it's nice and easy. Behind my first stitch, straight into the back leg of my second stitch. I don't knit it, I just give it a tug, because then I want to wind my needle to the front, and then I want to insert it into the first stitch and knit it. So I have to be careful that I keep these 2 stitches separate. I've pulled it forward, I insert it into the colour B stitch, and I knit it. I'm going to show you this again. And then I take both stitches off the needle, and what's happened is, we have a little look, the stitch behind is aligned correctly, and the stitch in front is crossed. So let's do those again. We'll move on to the next stitches. In between, I just slip 1. I'm back to a right cross. Let's do that one again. That one's nice and simple. I knit into the second stitch. Don't forget, I don't knit through both of them. I go between the stitches. Keep them slightly apart. I go between the stitches and I knit the first stitch. Keep a nice light hand. And then I just slip the first stitch as if to purl and drop them both. Easy peasy. That one is done. Okay, and in between I'm slipping 2. Now we're back to that left cross again. I go behind the first stitch into the second stitch, and I grab the back leg as if I'm going to knit it. And I pull it nice and tightly. I wind my needle to the front and I knit the first stitch. Feels a little bit fiddly, but it's not too bad, and it's just one nice movement once you get it down. So I knit my first stitch, and then I take them both, the first and the second stitch, off the needle, and look at that. Hey presto, you are done. I have one that leans to the right and one that leans to the left. I'll show you one more time. In between, I slip 1, and I'm back to a right cross again. So we know this one now. We knit into the second stitch. We go between the 2 stitches. I knit that second stitch, and then I slip the first stitch. Easy, that one's done. Don't pull them too tight. Keep a reasonably light touch when you're doing slip stitch colour work. Then I slip 2, and I'm going to do a left cross. So I go behind the first stitch, I grab the back leg of the second stitch, I give it a good yank, I wind my needle round to the front, I actually use my fingers to separate the 2 stitches, and I knit into the first stitch. I take both stitches off the needle, and hey presto, I am done. I'm going to work to the end of the row, and then I'm going to show you what it looks like with these beautiful crosses. And there we have it. I've done my crosses, and they all form beautiful little frames around the rosebuds. I've purled back again to make it easier for you to see, but you can see how they have these elongated stitches that cross over and form these little peaks like that. There is one more row that will be worked to actually close that triangle together. But there you are. Have fun, everybody. I hope you enjoy your dolly.